especially going forward for the big activities that we have at the beginning of 2026. To give
check microphone 1 2 microphone check 1 2 check mic 1 2 check microphone 1 2 checking. Okay.
And after this, it will be succeeded by the budget reading, and after those two key events that open each session of Parliament, we shall now go into the business of the House, which is handling bills, handling petitions, handling reports from different committees, and then towards the end of next year, this 11th Parliament will come to an end, and we shall be ushering in the 12th Parliament. That's why this is the last session of this House. Assisting the Speaker of Parliament, as we very well know, is the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker, Right Honourable Thomas Tayebwa. They have done a lot of work in Parliament, and working hand in hand, they have ensured that a lot of business has been handled as swiftly as possible and as concretely as possible, covering all areas of consideration. In the just concluded fourth session, there were a number of tributes that were paid to departed distinguished personalities. The most recent being the tribute to His Holiness, the late Pope Francis, who was the Supreme Pontiff of the Catholic Church and Sovereign of the Vatican City. Prior to that, we had a tribute to the late Honorable H.E Y.K, who is the former Member of Parliament for Kawempe Division North. And prior to his tribute, there was a tribute to the late H.E Y.K, who was an Olympic athlete and sergeant within the Uganda People's Defense Forces. We also had a tribute to the late Honorable Sarah Mateke Jerabashisi, former Member of Parliament for Kisoro, and former Minister of State for Defense and Veteran Affairs in charge of defense. And at the beginning of the session, last year in July, we also paid tribute to the late Honorable Simon Peter Alepe, who was the former Member of Parliament and member of the Central Executive Committee of the NRA. We continue to pray for their souls and the souls of all the departed to rest in eternal peace. Now in August of 2024, as the fourth session had commenced, there was also a tribute that was given to His Excellency the President, H.E Y.K Museveni, for his visionary leadership of the Uganda People's Defense Forces in safeguarding the peace and security of the northern region, that is the Choli, Lao, West Nile, and Karamoja. We continue to receive distinguished guests and dignitaries this afternoon ahead of the parliamentary session that we have. And present with us right now is His Royal Highness Engineer Dr. H.E Y.K Sodongo, the Wonyati of Lamu. You're very welcome. As you very well know, one of the important points of business that Parliament of Uganda handles is assessing and making a report of the report of the Auditor General that is given every end of the financial year, every end of a given financial year. And in October last year, particularly on the 17th, Parliament considered and adopted a report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2023. That was the year that preceded the time that new session had started. And the report handled entities including Kampala Capital City Authority, National Environment Management Authority, Uganda National Roads Authority, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Uganda AIDS Commission, Uganda Property Holdings Limited, Electricity Regulatory Authority, Uganda Human Rights Commission, Local Government Finance Commission, Financial Intelligence Authority, the National Enterprise Corporation, the National Children Authority, and the Capital Markets Authority. The House also received and considered a report on the status of the government assurances on the compensation of victims of war and insurgencies in the sub-regions of West Nile, Acholi, Lao, Karamoja, Teso, and Sebe. This was quite a lengthy debate where members of parliament gave key inputs, especially for these particular regions, the regions that they represent, to ensure that the government assurances do reach the people they are meant to serve. As I mentioned earlier, on the review of the rules of procedure of Parliament, the House engaged in a lengthy debate to ensure these rules are spick and span. And this was done on the second day of November. Excuse me, this was done on the 11th day of February this year. Another key report that was handled, especially in the energy sector, was a special audit report on the end of the lease assignment, I beg your pardon, a special audit report on the end of the lease and assignment agreement between Umeme Limited and Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. This was handled by the House, which saw the transition of management of the electricity sector from Umeme to UDCL. As you very well know, one of the key roles of Parliament is budgeting, alongside representation, legislation, and oversight. Now, budgeting, which is also known as appropriation, starts within the month of December, where the Minister of Finance brings the budget from a paper of the budget estimates to Parliament for consideration, and it goes through a furnace of investigation and key handling. And in May is when the budget, or rather the appropriation bill, which outlines the budget, is passed.
but you got some guests.
There was that minister, there is Omona who is there.
Honorable members of Parliament, distinguished guests, religious leaders, cultural leaders present, ladies and gentlemen. Like
but
recognize the arrival
because they will not come on their
the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Her Excellency Major Retired Jessica Rose Ekel Aluko. You're very welcome, Madam Vice President.
Welcome to the State of the Nation's Address 2025. The President will be coming here to address the country. And Article 101 gives the President the mandate to address Parliament on specific issue, but majorly on the State of the Nation's Address. And this is where his mandate comes from, to be able to speak to the nation, and he gives a scorecard of where the country is. Basically, he needs to be addressing strategic issues that need to be addressed. Issues that he has addressed before in the past. If we look at the past State of the Nation's addresses, and we look at 2021, the President addressed COVID then. He also talked about corruption. He went ahead to talk about different security facets that were there, from the Kawukumi to the ADF in there. He went on to talk about environmental degradation and international market access. Those were things that he addressed in 2021. In 2022, the President also came ahead, and corruption was something that still drew the line that came from 2021 to 2022. But he went on to also discuss commercial agriculture, coffee, and a myoga then that had been introduced on what needed to be turning around people that are within the blue-collar industry there. 2023, the President talked about security. Corruption still showed up, inflation, but also regional integration between the East African countries if they are to maximize the market there. He talked about household income, reducing borrowing, and also he talked about corruption, wealth creation, money lenders, but also talked about international trade and education for all. In all those, you see that the lining is in on strategic issues that come from corruption to infrastructure, but also social services like education, hospitals. If a statement is to go by that was addressed by Lady Justice Irene Muliagonja, that specifically pointed out, Mulago, are those the things that are the pains of Ugandans that the President needs to address today? That is where we need to be looking at the critical issues that he will be speaking about as soon as he arrives here. We're hoping that in the hours of 2 o'clock there, he will be showing up here to be able to address this. But majorly, this is also the marking of the 5th session of Parliament that will be starting immediately as soon as the President is done. What issues would you like him to address? Because when he addressed issues all the way from COVID in 2021 and came to the recovery, are we still recovering from COVID? But also a lot of lamentations and singing about corruption has been done. Thumb chesting on corruption there. What more can be done? Because the progress on corruption is one of the things that hampers the economic growth of this country. If we're losing 10 trillion shillings and only 10 billion can be recovered by the IGG, what more can be done? And if this address can be the one to sort out the issues around corruption. The last one, he said he knew them and we're waiting for him to do something about them. And he said, wait, you will see what I will be doing. Up to today, we're still waiting to see what he's going to do about that. Things like wealth creation, the 4-acre model, education for all these are things that he has said over the last 39 years. What more can he say? Or is this just talk that needs bite? So today's State of the Nation's address, we have some ministers that have shown up that are with us in our presence. The IGP is here, and also representation from the Army is here. Some members of Parliament are present here to address some of those issues. But what scorecard would you give the address of the President, especially the performance of government in the last 12 months, because the last State of the Nation's address was June 6th, 2024, and today is June 5th, 2025, and we're still wondering some of the things and promises he has made, why haven't they been delivered in all this time? But also, let's look at some of the things that are talked about, like education for all. When we look at the numbers of children that go into primary 1 all the way to P7, about 2 million of them arrive in P1, and about 800,000 finish P7, and we see about 200,000 finish S4, and about 80,000 finish S6. 40,000 finish university. The question of unemployment is one of the biggest questions that we do not have answers to. But also the economy has been cushioned by some of the issues that we see, especially when we look at arrears, people that have transacted with government and they still arrears. The money has come from 200 billion to 1.3 trillion shillings, and that is good, especially for the next financial year between 2025 and 2026, and it's on an uphill trajectory, especially not to stifle the private sector. But when we look at also the borrowing that the President talked about in 2023, and he said we needed to reduce the borrowing, we have a big debt, a growing debt, especially in domestic borrowing, and that's one of our biggest hindrances, especially to the private sector. The bank is better to give government than give you as an individual to borrow money from them. But we also go and look at the most recent event that happened on the 3rd of June, especially an explosion that happened in Namugongo. And the biggest question there is, especially the 2 people that gave their lives, and a quick statement that comes through about ADF. The security matter. The bedrock of the national resistance movement has been security. Why is this something that is lingering, that has failed to be nipped in the bud? Every time we talk about ADF, we have had soldiers in Congo, we have had soldiers run after the ADF in each and every area, even as far as Sudan. The question is, why are we not nipping this in the bud? But also, when you look at some of the statements made by the spokesperson of the UPDF, especially on security, they concern the public there. Are these concerns that the President is going to put to rest? The final one is especially on elections and democracy. The last State of the Nation's address, the President talked about the state of the nation and talked about the rule of law in this country, not the rule by law. He also talked about democracy. When we look at elections that are coming up come Jan of next year, what does that mean? A few incidents have happened. If you look at Remiaga, if you look at Sembabule, a lot of contestation there. When you also look at Kawempe North, where the President came out to say his election of 2021 was robbed by, first he said 1 million votes, recently he said 2.7 million votes, and he's been specific that the biometric will be the game changer in the election come January of next year. Will that biometric be able to function even when we have challenges with it in this upcoming election? He also says that if the biometric is not functional, the election at that constituency or at that polling center will be suspended. The question is, how long will it be suspended? If we look at issues as what happened in Kawempe, where now the election is in contestation that has gone up to the Court of Appeal, what does that mean for us? Shall we have a prolonged electoral petition that will take this country and drag us longer, especially when we need governance and leadership to be able to move forward in there? So those issues of the elections, of democracy, issues of security. The other one is infrastructure in this country. Things of SGA, oil. It seems like oil has been slipping away from us since 2024. It has been promised since 2024, promised early 2025, mid 2025. Now it has been pushed as far as September of 2026. Energy is a very vital issue in this country. Is the President also going to comment about Umeme and UEDCL? Because Umeme is not agreeing to the compensation that it was given. It is asking for more, especially on how much it had invested in the energy sector in this country. And we look at that and question, is this something that the President is also going to comment about, the energy sector can we turn green in this country when we look at the energy sector, and how much of that can we harness in areas of the green in there? So right now I have been joined by Honorable Hamson Obua. Honorable, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You look satisfied, like you earlier told me.
I am well by the grace of God.
We thank God. You look very nice.
Thank you very much.
How are the primaries going of the NRM before we get into the State of the Nation address? You look like you're doing a meticulous job there. Yesterday, smooth riding. Most of the areas have had a smooth riding. How is it going so far?
So far, so good. You are aware that the National Resistance Movement, being a mass party, started with registration of members. There was the update. Then we now have a register. And as I speak, the due process for expression of interest is on. You have seen from the turn-up that NRM is a mass party that has support all over the country. We pray and hope that all the due processes will be peaceful. Yeah.
Honorable, what are your expectations on this State of the Nation's address from the President, especially from you as government?
On our side, we know that the NRM has a social contract with the people of Uganda, and in that social contract, which we obtained in 2021, our agenda for this particular Kisanja is nothing else but wealth creation. After bringing about sustainable peace, after bringing about development that we can see from north to central to east to west, the major preoccupation of the NRM is to get the 39% of our population who are still stuck in poverty out of poverty. That is the main reason why out of our budget we have so far injected over 3.6 trillion shillings into wealth creation initiatives. The NRM has equally gone on record as the first political party in the post-independence history of Uganda that has introduced wealth creation initiative. So we believe that the President will reaffirm the commitment of NRM in bringing about sustainable peace, in bringing about development that is currently going on, but also reaffirm our renewed commitment in the fight against poverty using the respective houses at household level and bringing about wealth creation. That is the new front line. That is the revolutionary struggle that the NRM at the moment is getting involved in to ensure that everybody is out of poverty. If you make a choice, that will be your choice. But resources are being injected at the parish level, at the constituency level, at the district level for different wealth creation initiatives. It is incumbent upon each and every Ugandan to move to the nearest unit and be part of this journey where NRM would want to bring about socio-economic transformation of the country.
Honorable, lastly but not least, my question is, what scorecard would you give? Because this is 12 months since the President spoke on June 6, 2024. It's now June 5th, 2025. What scorecard would you give government, especially if you are addressing us today to tell us how did you fare as a government in 12 months?
In generating the needed revenue, in religions that goes to districts, cities, municipalities, ministries, departments, and agencies of government, I definitely give NRM a distinction 1 because we have always funded our budget irrespective of the challenges. Where we may have a challenge is the implementation, where the different anti-corruption bodies must be able, together with us, the leaders, to do our critical role of oversight to ensure that the huge sums of resources that are channeled to the countryside are put to good use. So overall, the NRM, I can give it distinction 1 because we have always generated resources. We have channeled resources to implement our budget year in, year out. We only got affected around COVID time. We have now recovered. We are proceeding very well in raising resources and funding our budget.
Lastly, Honorable Hamson, the question of corruption. 2021, it featured. 2022, 2023, 2024. And the last time I remember the President said, wait, you will see what I will do. Why is corruption eluding government?
Just like the world is going through metamorphosis from analog to digital, that is the ugly face of corruption. It keeps on going through metamorphosis. But that said, we are all aware that there has been a significant change in the fight against corruption. The anti-corruption bodies have also done a lot, but the fight against corruption is a collective responsibility. It starts with you, the citizen of Uganda. If you need a service, why must you get something out of your pocket in order to procure a service? So there is also corrupt motive. So it is collective responsibility. We must all say no. If a service of government is free of charge, we must be able to get it free of charge. But the moment those who are privileged in society can be able to get resources and procure any given service, then corruption will not come to an end. But all said and done, the NRM is committed. That is why we have different anti-corruption bodies put in place or institutions to fight corruption in Uganda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hamson Obua. It's always a pleasure having you and looking very sharp. That was Honorable Hamson Obua, the Chief Whip of the National Resistance Movement, giving us his analysis, especially on what he expects. He has given distinction to the government performance in the last 12 years. 12 months. What is your performance indicator, especially for government when you look at its performance there? He also talked about corruption and said it metamorphoses, so that's why they are failing to nip it in the bud. But also, I am joined by Honorable Dr. Kenneth Omona, the Minister in charge of Northern Uganda. Good afternoon, Doctor, and you look good.
Thank you.
How are you? You must have had a long evening. You and I were supposed to engage yesterday.
Yeah, I got to an invitation, got to know about it late. And by the time I finished my engagement at around 11 o'clock, I think it was late to join you. And I didn't just want to pass by. So I am organized to come next week to have a longer conversation so that we can unpack and throw more light, particularly on that topic that you discussed yesterday.
Honorable, you are making a year almost as a minister?
Well, about a year, I think.
About a year. What are your expectations of the President's State of the Nation address today? What would you like him to address?
Well, the President will address the country as far as the assessment of the country and what his government was set out to do. But I think the country is expecting that the President is going to, of course, continue engaging the population and giving an account of how much we have gone, especially with our agenda of socio-economic transformation. People also want to hear about regional security, especially security in the Great Lakes region. This is a very big market for the people in this region, and where we see instability, like we saw some little bit of skirmishes in South Sudan, in the DRC, Congo, and then of course we also know the situation in Sudan. And you may be interested in knowing that Sudan was one of those big markets for our tea. So other than just the Great Lakes region, we're also interested in the security of the entire Africa. So I think IGAD is also concerned and getting to engage the relevant stakeholders as far as concerned. So peace and stability of our region, expansion of our economy, and continuing to strengthen the East African community relationship. And then, of course, we are now very interested in engaging the rest of the world as far as trade is concerned. Like the President has always said, what we want from the West is mainly trade. We want to trade with them. It's actually what we are asking more than aid is trading with the West. And so I think this largely what the citizens want to hear. And for us, like in northern Uganda, we are very happy because this coming budget, we have about 65 billion Uganda shillings in the Ministry of Agriculture for introduction and expansion of coffee in northern Uganda, which is very good for us. We hope this will contribute towards the socio-economic transformation of the people there. And of course, what is also apparent now is that we need those investment in the infrastructure, especially roads, roads and railways, because these are very important, because they stimulate, they support production. And for us also in the north, we're very happy because the renovation of the Mitagiri Railway is now moving from Tesa side to Lango, to Acholi, and then into West Nile. We are already connected in the West Nile. We are already connected to the region, to the national grid, and we are now working on developing the industrial parks in West Nile and other parts of Acholi. So we are really geared.
Honorable, you mentioned something about security, and today is the deadline of the ultimatum you made on behalf of the president to the people in the herdsmen in the northern region. How far has it gone, and how are you going to manage such a sensitive matter, especially for a region like that, economically?
You know, in the wisdom of the president envisaged a stable country where there's respect for every community. And all these Uganda communities, Uganda, are still united along some culture and some customs. So in the wisdom of the president, I think there was some kind of disruption, distortion, or disturbance of the way of the settlement of the people in the entire northern Uganda by the migrant cattle keepers. This is not tribalistic, but it's about the character of these people who have moved with the cows, with animals, to northern Uganda. And aware of the fact that northern Uganda has just recovered from war. So there was need to let the people there settle, appreciate their post-war situation, so that they can settle among themselves. So at the moment, there's a lot of land conflicts there, family conflicts, intra-clan conflicts. So inter-community conflicts as far as land is concerned. Now, this compounded with the invasion of others who are away from, who come from far, who are not part of the community, causes a lot of distortion and chaos. And this kind of conflict is what the president wants to avoid. So, in his wisdom, he wants every migrant cattle keeper in the north to first go away. Then they will come back when the issue of land has been discussed and sorted. What they are driving away is the cattle, not the people.
Thank you, Honorable Mona. Let me release you since next week we're going to be together. We'll have this conversation even more. Have a blessed day. So that was Honorable Dr. Kenneth Omona telling us especially about the security situation. He has stretched it especially on talking about infrastructure, how important it is to come from Lango, to come all the way to Acholi, Teso, to improve trade in that area. But also he has hinted on the security issue. I'm also joined by another Honorable. Good afternoon, sir. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
How are you? You look very nice.
Thank you. My name is Milton Mouma, MP Chiguru South Iganga District.
Honorable Milton, what do you expect the president to address in this? In his last 4 addresses, corruption has been a major issue. What do you want him to talk about?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank him for coming out firm on the issue of corruption. Yes, it's the way to go. You say I'm NRM. One of the key issues, the challenges that NRM has been grappling with is the corruption, bribery in most of the government agencies and institutions. So when a head of state comes out to condemn, castigate, we feel now all energies need to be consolidated along this line.
But how much have you done to nip corruption? 10 trillion is stolen, 10 billion is recovered. That is a drop in the ocean. Why is the NRM failing to deal with corruption?
Yeah, I think it takes time for us to have results. You cannot be handled haphazardly or overnight. So we feel institutions are in place, but some of these institutions need to be empowered. The other day you had the former IGG lamenting that at times when investigations are done, they find traces somewhere, what. So these are revelations that show that when you are addressing issues of corruption, we need to all speak the same language, we need to castigate it, we need to stand firm. If at all something is bad, let's all stand and say, this is bad. It's the way to go. We'll be able. We have made milestones. Some of our colleagues the other day were appearing in court because of this. We feel we are moving in the right direction.
Honorable, my last question to you is about health. The Lady Justice Irene Muriagonja was giving a tribute to her husband and talked about Mulago. Health, both in your constituency and as a nation, is that something we're doing well to benefit Ugandans who are taxpayers?
Yeah, I think I need to, first of all, salute as I would agree with the justice to some point, but recently I had patients in Mulago. We have success stories that Mulago has been able to achieve, whereas there are challenges here and there. For example, in the Cancer Institute, we still need to all speak the same language when it comes to procuring that big equipment that is making us send patients all the time to India. I think this calls for resource allocation. But there are success stories. My district, we are pushing for getting a referral, regional referral in Iganga, because Jinja can no longer handle the 12 districts of Busoga sub-region. So by us being granted a second regional referral in Iganga, it handles so many cases. So we feel if the president came out to say this or second this on this, I would say yes. Finally, the issue of electricity. Electricity is an issue. We are producing a lot of electricity, but it's not reaching the final consumers. So transmission of power to the communities. I would be the happiest if the president said affirmative action like we did for roads, that each district, each local government gets 1 billion for road enhancements. I would be happy even in the energy sector if we took this approach of saying energy should be distributed equitably, because there are districts that do not have electricity at all. There are those that have up to some percentage. So if we gave 1 billion across the board for power extension, it would be
Honorable, we left Umeme, went to UEDCL. Umeme is willing to take us to the Court of Arbitration over compensation there, and you're asking for power. UDCL is also asking for a loan of about maybe $75 million to be able to recapitalize. Is what you're asking for possible, especially when we're still in these wrangles of power?
Yeah, I think it is possible, because first, the people who negotiated the coming of Umeme were selfish in one way or another. It is clear, it is evident. When the terms of payment were being negotiated, they were not pro-people, pro-Ugandans. Self-seekers negotiated to benefit themselves. It's the reason we said, let UEDCL, a public or a government company, begin managing the affairs of electricity. Privatizing electricity, which is a precursor to development, which is a cornerstone to development, I think we erred at some point to bring a private operator to manage the affairs of energy, especially electricity. That's why we took that radical decision of saying UEDCL, a government company, needs to be handed over this task. I feel the resource allocations will be addressed in the interest of Ugandans. We feel it will be sorted.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Have a good day. So, Honorable has spoken about energy, especially for his constituency, and he says, with the energy we generate in this country, why don't we do an affirmative action to have energy spread out across the country, especially for places that don't have it. But with the contestation between UDCL and Umeme, is that dream a reality, or it is just wind up there that we hope that will come to an end? But also, we look further to what he talked about when he talked about education in his area, and also went ahead to talk about he would like to see what the president talks about, the economy and corruption, because corruption has become an issue for them to be able to deal with moving forward. We also looked at what Honorable Mona was talking about in northern Uganda, a region that is now a hub for business, especially looking at trade between the north, the Acholi region, and the Acholi region and the South Sudan country there, but also this contestation between the herdsmen and the Acholi people there. What does that mean for them as a business moving forward? I've also been joined by Honorable David Bahati, the State Minister in charge of trade. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. In charge of industry.
In charge of industry, sorry. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
In your docket, the President is addressing us today for the last 12 months. What scorecard would you give yourselves as government for the last 12 months in trade? How have you performed?
I think we have done very well. As you know, we have increased on the stock of the factories in Uganda. We used to have 81 factories in 1986. We are now approaching 10,000. We have a number of products that we have replaced. For example, we never used to have iron sheets, steel, and all these tiles, all these products are being produced here now. So we are very grateful, and we think we have secured markets, African Continental Free Trade, East African. We are securing markets in Serbia. We're securing markets in China. So there's a lot of progress that we are making in the sector of industry and trade. So we are very glad that, and I'm sure that His Excellency the President will be able to mention some of these areas.
Honorable, capital is one of the profound things that anyone in business would like to do. Government is borrowing from the banks there, but also government is holding on to areas there. How are you supporting, especially in this address, to address those issues?
I think UDB will be a solution to us. More capital in UDB will mean more businesses because entrepreneurs will be able to get money and more jobs will be created.
And lastly, Honorable, unemployment is a big thing for young people. How?
The solution to this will be more factories, more jobs, but also parish development model. Commercialization of agriculture is also helping us, like PDM, to be able to create more people. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bahati. We really like spending time with you. The Honorable has talked about trade, especially capitalization of the private sector, and he has promised that UDB will be an answer to you who are looking for capitalization of the different facets of the business. He has also spoken about the areas there and says 1.3 trillion shillings has been set aside in this budget to be able to nip that in the areas to solve it. But also he says factories. He says we now have 10,000 factories, and he's saying if we were to solve the problem of unemployment, more factories have to be brought on board to solve some of the problems there. He also mentioned the PDM. He also expects the president to be mentioning some of those things there. But are these the silver bullets to be able to solve the economic problem that we have, especially with young people in the biggest percentage of 70% in the bracket of unemployment, or those that are in the bracket of self-sustainability farming for themselves? Can that be some of the things that we expect the president to talk about? The last time he talked about coffee in 2023, and he was talking about commercial agriculture, and he said that's where we need to be able to go, especially with the investment that has been put in agriculture to increase the output of agriculture. We look at also the heightening in the amounts of agriculture there. Good afternoon, sir. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, how are you? Yes.
Your name, please.
Fred Bwino Chakulaga.
Honorable Bwino.
Major.
Retired Major Fred Bwino, what would you desire the president to speak about today?
I would desire him to speak about how we can chase away the dilemma of lack of income for that proportion of Ugandans, about 39%, so that they join the money economy. That's the main thing, because if we address it, then the economy of the country would drastically increase. But also, secondly, that qualitative leap of value addition versus quantitative expansion of the economy. I would love to hear from him further measures to ensure that we add value on most of the products that Ugandans are producing, most especially coffee, most especially those products that can be sold internationally. So those are my biggest expectations for his address.
And when you also look at a big number of young people coming into the employment or gainful young people that are energetic, what would you like him to talk about? Especially we have a very big workforce. If we look at your boss's statistics, what would you like him to say about that?
You know, I look at this boom of youth as a resource for the country. So, in my view, if he can give the country an agenda for utilizing that resource of younger people, because there are many, numbers are big, they're energetic, and they are educated, they're innovative, so it's a resource. So I want to hear from him how the country can utilize that resource as we look into building our economy. So how do we harness that energy, those numbers, is the question that I want him to address.
Lastly, Honorable, when you look at capitalization, businesses are in need of money. Government is borrowing heavily domestically in the last 3 years. How do we solve that issue of capital, especially for entrepreneurs, for businesses? How do we help the private sector to be boosted even more?
Well, the private sector is still weak. And when you talk about government borrowing domestically, that's not bad, because in a way it also generates more earnings for those that are able to lend to government. But talking about capital, I think it is still a question, and it remains a question, because capital is still expensive. We have not yet got a sustainable solution to it. So I believe this is still a question, and it remains a question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Fred Wino. It's always inciting to look at it. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Taiwa, and the Speaker of Parliament have gone to receive His Excellency the President, and we are going to switch you live to be able to see the arrival of the President and the proceedings thereafter. Let's get straight to the proceedings of the President coming, because all of us are eagerly awaiting to see what exactly he will be saying this year. Over to you to watch the President's procession there.
Before His Excellency arrives here.
Sorry.
Honorable members, the President is arriving in a jiffy. May we all prepare to receive him. I would like to request everyone who hasn't yet taken their seats in the tent, soon to be proclaimed as the chamber, to come in hurriedly as we prepare to commence today's key activity, the State of the Nation address by the President of the Republic of Uganda. Honorable members of parliament, distinguished guests, the President of the Republic of Uganda has arrived. I will request with kindness that we shall rise and receive him. The President of the Republic of Uganda Honorable members of parliament, distinguished guests, the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency General H.E Y.K Museveni, His Excellency the President, and Mama, First Lady Janet Museveni, are received by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, the Inspector General of Police, and the Clerk to Parliament. So now the President will proceed to sign in the Visitors Book of Parliament, witnessed by the Speaker of Parliament and the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and we shall remain upstanding, and thereafter, the session of the House shall officially commence. Thank you.
of the Republic of Uganda and the Right Honorable Speaker.
The anthems.
Who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to the church. Amen.
Amen. Item number 3, proclamation by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament.
Whereas in Article 101, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution of Uganda mandates His Excellency the President at the beginning of each session of Parliament to deliver to Parliament an address of the State of Nation. Aware that His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda has, in accordance with the Article 101, Sub-Article 1, indicated to the Speaker of Parliament his intention to address Parliament on the State of Nation on 5th January 2025. Now, therefore, in accordance with Rule 18.1 of the Rules of Procedure, hereby proclaim that 1. Parliament shall sit at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds on 5th June 2025 at 14 hours to receive the address of His Excellency the President of Republic of Uganda on the State of Nation, and the Kololo Ceremonial Grounds to be the precincts of Parliament for the above mentioned purpose, given under my hand at Parliament House, Kampala, on 5th day of June 2025.
Item number 4, communication from the Chair.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, General H.E.Y.K Museveni, accompanied by the First Lady and the Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, Her Excellency, the Vice President, Major Retired Jessica Alupo Epel, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, His Lordship, Honorable Deputy Chief Justice, Dr. Flavian Zeija, who is also here to represent the Chief Justice, the Honorable Visiting Speakers and Presiding Officers of Parliaments of Africa and their representatives. We have the Right Honorable Alban Kingford Sumana Bangbin, the Speaker of Parliament of Ghana and the Chairperson of the Conference of Speakers of African Union Legislatures, COSPAL. Right Honorable, just raise up and wave to us. The Right Honorable Vital Kamerhe, the President of the National Assembly of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Join me in welcoming our guests. The Right Honorable Lucas Sinibo Moha, the Chairperson of the National Council of Parliament of Namibia. You're most welcome. The Right Honorable Joseph Intakrotinimana, the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly. You're welcome. The Right Honorable Jaffa Amson Kingi, the Speaker of the Senate of Kenya. You're welcome. The Right Honorable Pamena, the Deputy Speaker of the Transitional National Legislature of South Sudan. You're welcome. The Right Honorable Prime Minister and Leader of Government Business in Uganda, the Right Honorable Nabanja. The Right Honorable Matthew Nyuma, the Majority Leader and Leader of Government Business of the National Assembly of Sierra Leone, and a member of the Bureau of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, the European Union, that is OACP, yes, EU, all the Deputy Prime Ministers of Uganda, the Vice Chairperson of the National Resistance Movement, that is H.E Y.K Museveni, all the members of the Central Executive Committee of the National Resistance Movement, the Honorable Leader of Opposition in Parliament, Honorable Senyonyi Joel, Cabinet Ministers and Ministers of State, Your Excellencies, the heads of diplomatic mission, High Commissioners, Ambassadors and members of Diplomatic Corps, Honorable members of Parliament of Uganda and members of the East African Legislative Assembly, Honorable Clifford Ande, Member of Parliament of Seychelles and member of the Bureau of OSCE CPS EU, the guest members from other legislatures, the Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement, Honorable Richard Todong, the distinguished former leaders, notably Right Honorable Amama Mbabasi, I've seen, and others, the traditional, cultural, and religious leaders that are present here, the permanent secretaries, the heads of public agencies, corporations, and parastatals, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to this inaugural sitting of the 5th session of the 11th Parliament of Uganda. Today marks the beginning of the final year of the 11th Parliament. I will state without any fear of contradiction that this Parliament has been the epitome of the people-centered legislature. I want to commend His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, for his unwavering support to the legislature, and I also want to commend all of you, members, for living up to your role and responsibility. Thank you so much. In a special way, I take this opportunity to appreciate all the speakers and presiding officers of sister parliaments and legislatures in Africa that have honored our invitation. Thank you so much for your solidarity and for loving Uganda. You are most welcome to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Honorable members, it's a command of the 1995 Constitution of Republic of Uganda under Article 101, Sub-Article 1, that the President shall, at the beginning of each session of Parliament, deliver to Parliament an address to the State of Nation. Therefore, today the House and indeed the nation will receive the presidential address on the State of Nation. Unless circumstances dictate, this will be the final State of Nation address that the 11th Parliament will receive from His Excellency the President. Especially that, considering that by this time next year, the 12th Parliament will be in session. Basing on that, it is a historic opportunity for all patriots and the people of goodwill to reflect on our collective achievements as a nation and take stock of the prevailing challenges and opportunities for a sustained growth of our beloved nation, Uganda. Your Excellency and honorable members, during the previous session, Parliament's performance was generally outstanding and was characterized by a greater responsiveness, efficiency, and effectiveness. To this end, Parliament of Uganda held 75 sittings, during which 2 oaths were administered to new members of parliament. That is Honorable Akifensa Grace Ngabirano and Honorable Luimbasi Elias Nalukola. 35 bills were passed, 3 petitions were concluded, 45 resolutions were passed, and 53 reports were adopted. I take this opportunity to commend the members of parliament and all the entities that took time and contributed to the passing of the following laws: the Appropriation Bill 2024, the Higher Education Students Financing Amendment Bill 2024, the National Commission for UNESCO Amendment Bill 2024, the National Information Technology Authority Uganda Amendment Bill 2024, the Cotton Development Bill Amendment Bill 2024, the Dairy Industry Amendment Bill 2024, the National Agricultural Advisory Services Amendment Bill 2024, the National Forestry and Tree Planting Amendment Bill 2024, the National Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Bill 2024, the National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024, the Uganda National Roads Authority Repeal Bill 2024, the Uganda Road Fund Amendment Bill 2024, the Public Enterprise Reform and Divestiture Amendment Bill 2024, the Tier 4 Institutions and Moneylenders Amendment Bill 2024, the Non-Performing Assets Recovery Trust Repeal Bill 2024, the Technical and Vocational Education Technical Bill, Training Bill 2024, the National Sports Amendment Bill 2024, the Occupational Safety and Health Amendment Bill 2023, the Employment Amendment Bill 2023, the Exercise Duty Amendment Bill 2025, the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2025, the Public Service Pension Fund 2024, the East African Community Mediation Agreement Bill 2024, the Sugar Amendment Bill 2023, the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025, the Exercise Duty Amendment Bill number 2, 2025, the Tax Procedure Code Amendment Bill 2025, the Income Tax Amendment Bill number 2, 2025, the External Trade Amendment Bill 2025, the Stamp Duty Amendment Bill 2025, the Hides and Skins Export Duty Amendment Bill 2025, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2025, the Appropriation Bill 2025, the Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Bill 2025, the Uganda People's Defense Forces Amendment Bill 2025. Your Excellency, Parliament of Uganda recognizes the importance of greater efficiency and effectiveness of public service as a cornerstone of service delivery and an instrument of the realization of our national development aspirations. To this end, among the bills passed during the 4th session are those that seek to reform the pension management in both the public service and military, and those that seek to enhance the growth and development of the private sector. Fellow Ugandans, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on 9th January 2025, Parliament approved the 4th National Development Plan, NDP4, for the years 2025, 2026, 2029, 2030. This plan is our national blueprint for transformation and sustainable development of our country. The budget speech that we shall receive on 12th June 2025 is aligned to this National Development Plan. I take the cognizance of the contribution of all stakeholders in the formulation and realization of this plan. Your Excellency, after my communication, and if it does please you, Your Excellency, I will request that before you commence on your address to Parliament and by extension to the nation, you symbolically unveil the NDP4, a document that will be a precursor to the budget speech, which will be held on 12th June 2025. Your Excellency, in line with our vision of being a people-centered parliament, during the 4th session, the Parliament of Uganda held its first ever regional sitting at Kaunda Grounds in Gulu City. That is northern Uganda, from 28th to 30th August 2024. During this sitting, issues specific to the region were deliberated upon, and a series of community outreach and civic engagement were conducted. Your Excellency, we take this opportunity to thank you for gracing the opening of that historic sitting which took place in Gulu City. The legislature will continue to place the common person at the center of all its parliamentary processes and decisions. We are optimistic that in the near future, Parliament will hold another regional sitting that will cover other regions of the country. In a bid to foster Pan-Africanism and international collaboration with other legislatures and interparliamentary bodies, we continued to further interparliamentary diplomacy through active participation and membership in various interparliamentary bodies, such as the East African Community Bureau of Speakers, the Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the African Union Legislatures, that's COSPAL, the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, the Pan-African Parliament, PAP, the European Union, Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific, EU-ACP group, and the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, CPA, to mention but a few. Your Excellency, the impressive representation of our sister legislatures at this State of Nation address is a testimony of our good standing among the international community of nations. I take this opportunity to once again welcome our guest speakers and presiding officers and thank them for traveling from far and wide to witness this historic occasion. You're most welcome. Join me in welcoming our guests. Your Excellency and honorable members, I take this opportunity to thank you for your role in enabling the remarkable output registered by legislature during the 4th session. I will reiterate my appreciation for the consistent support of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Yoweri Museveni. Your Excellency, the 11th Parliament draws inspiration of your effective and impactful leadership as a key enabler and a societal transformation. We undertake that the 5th session that you'll open today will remain steadfast in effectively executing its mandate in furtherance to the National Vision 2040 that aims in transforming Uganda in modern and a prosperous nation within the 30 years. Your Excellency and honorable members, as you may be aware that Article 83, Sub-Article A of the 1995 Constitution permits members of Parliament to leave and join political parties or political organizations of their choice within 12 months before the end of term of Parliament, to participate in activities or programs of political parties or political organizations relating to the general election. To this end, I am in receipt of notification by the following members opting to join respective political parties. Honorable Twaha Kagabo, MP Bukoto South, from the National Unity Platform to the National Resistance Movement. Honorable Akol Anthony, MP Clark North, from the Forum for Democratic Change to the National Resistance Movement. Honorable Jarama Pendusi Martin, from Baradegi Laibi, from the Independent Opposition Leaning to the National Resistance Movement. Honorable Ongetho Emmanuel, from Jonam County from Forum for Democratic Change to the National Resistance Movement. Honorable Mpuga Matthias Nyendo Mukungwe, from the National Unity Platform to the Democratic Front. Honorable Dr. Abed Bwanika, MP Kimanya Kabonera, from National Unity Platform to the Democratic Front. Honorable Kakembo Michael, MP Entebbe Municipality, from the National Unity Platform to the Democratic Front. Honorable Kakandi Juliet Nakabuye, City Woman MP Masaka, from the National Unity Platform to the Democratic Front. We wish the members well in the exercise of their freedom of association as prescribed in Article 29 of the Constitution of Uganda, which we swore to uphold. Your Excellency and honorable members, despite the remarkable strides that we have made, the 4th session was not without any challenges. We regrettably lost 2 sitting members of Parliament in the person of Honorable Sarah Mateke, woman member of Parliament of Kisoro, and Honorable Mohammed Segrinya, MP Kawempe North. We continue to pray for internal repose of their souls. Pursuant to Article 94(4)A of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, and Rule 26(1) of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament of Uganda, legislature will continue to prioritize government business. We look forward with optimism to government legislative agenda for the fifth session and other plans that may be contained in today's presidential address of nation. I say all this for God and my country. Your Excellency, as I had earlier on stated in my communication, I will now take this singular honor and privilege to invite you to unveil the National Development Plan 4. Your Excellency, you'll be joined by my good self and the Deputy Speaker, the Ministers of Finance, to perform this activity.
Item number 5, invitation by the Right Honourable Speaker to His Excellency the President to deliver to Parliament an address on the state of the nation in accordance with Article 1011 of the Constitution.
Your Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, it is your mandate under Article 101, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution at the beginning of each session of Parliament to deliver to Parliament your address on the state of nation. Honorable members, as we welcome the President to deliver his address on the state of nation, we draw your attention to Rule 10 of the Rules of Procedure, which provide in Sub-Rule 4A that the President, while occupying the chair of a state, may make a presidential statement which shall be heard in silence and not followed by any comment or question. I now take the singular honor and privilege to invite you, Your Excellency, to address the August House and the nation by extension. You are most welcome, Mr. President.
Excellency the Vice President, the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, His Lordship the Chief Justice, Right Honourable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, His Lordship the Deputy Chief Justice, the Right Honourable Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Ministers, Honourable Ministers, Honourable Members of Parliament, Honourable Members of the Diplomatic Corps, cultural and religious leaders, the Wananchi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. In fulfillment of the constitutional requirement under Article 101, Clause 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, I am here to deliver the State of the Nation Address 2025. Fellow countrymen, countrywomen, and especially the Bazukulu, abantu abo, I applaud you all for positively utilizing the peace and tranquility prevailing across the country and the improved physical infrastructure to improve your personal lives, your families, and your communities. Since the last State of the Nation address, a number of people have unfortunately departed from this earth. They include His Holiness the Pope, late Pope Francis, the late Honorable Major John Kazora, former Member of Parliament of Kashari, the late Honorable Sarah Mateke Nyirabashitsi, the former Minister of State for Defense, the late Honorable Muhammad Segirinya, the former Member of Parliament for Kawempe North, the late Honorable Dr. H.E Y.K, the former Member of Parliament for Queen County, the late Honorable Babadiri Margaret, the former woman Member of Parliament for Koboko District, the late Honorable Margaret Komhanji, the former woman Member of Parliament for Nakasongora District, the late Honorable Cicely Ignatius, the former Member of Parliament for Buyaga County East, the late Honorable Frank Nabuiso, the former Member of Parliament for Kagoma County, and many other Ugandans who have succumbed to accidents, illnesses, etc. I request that we rise up and observe a moment of silence in the memory of those that have passed on. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Sit down. In the Gospel, according to St. Matthew, chapter 7, verses 24 to 27, Jesus talked about two kinds of builders. The wise builder, who built his house on the rock, and the foolish builder, who built his house on sand. When the rain, floods, and wind came upon both houses, that of the foolish man was swept away, because its foundation was weak, while the one of the wise man remained standing, because its foundation was firm and strong. The national resistance movement can be likened to the wise man in Jesus' parable, because we have been able to establish the necessary foundation to catapult Uganda to modernity based on the four principles ideology. The principles are patriotism, love Uganda; Pan-Africanism, love Africa; socio-economic transformation, and democracy. The aim of this ideology is to promote the mass line, i.e., guaranteeing the social uplift of all segments of the society, and not just the few elites. The mass line programs such as UPE and UPE's Universal Primary Education and Universal Secondary Education, the mass immunization campaigns, the wealth creation funds, e.g. Operation Wealth Creation, PDM, Operation Wealth Creation of the Army, where the Army was involved, OWC, Emioga, Parish Development Model, PDM, etc., have led to significant improvements in the quality of life in Uganda. Life expectancy in Uganda is now 63 years compared to 45 years in 1986. This means that Ugandans are now living longer. In 1986, Uganda's population was only 14 million. The National Population Housing Census conducted last year showed that Uganda's population is now 46 million people. The literacy rate has also improved from 43% in 1986 to 80% now. In 1986, more than 90% of the population was trapped in subsistence farming. i.e., working only for food with no surplus to take to the market to get money. There has been a significant reduction in the percentage of households in subsistence agriculture. They are now 33%. And you hear that at the beginning they were 90%. These few illustrations show that implementing the mass line programs is the most effective way of triggering socio-economic transformation. Therefore, in line with the mass line philosophy of the NRM, we must prioritize the following. Number one, peace and security of person and their property in all parts of the country. Number 2, accelerating industrialization with focus on building factories which use locally available materials as inputs. Number 3, export promotion and import substitution by boosting the domestic manufacturing capacity. Number 4, strengthening the private sector. Number 5, increasing market access for our exports, both in the regional markets such as East African Community, COMESA, among others, and international markets. Number 6, skilling our youth through the zonal industrial hubs. The youth will continue to acquire skills in tailoring, carpentry, metal fabrication, welding, shoemaking, weaving, hairdressing, knitting, and bakery. We shall add also plumbing and motor mechanics. The training is free of charge and no prior education qualifications are required, as you all know. Number 7, increasing revenue collection by Uganda Revenue Authority without hurting businesses. Number 8, expenditure rationalization by restructuring the government. And I thank the Parliament here, as you heard the Speaker was listing those bills which you passed, which enabled this rationalization to take place. Fighting corruption, number 9. Number 10, ensuring that the remaining 33% of the homesteads still practicing subsistence agriculture join the money economy. The general security situation in the country is calm. However, the traditional and non-traditional threats to national security continue to manifest in the form of terrorism, negative political activism, general and cross-border crime, as well as health and environmental risks. The national borders are secure, save for the spillover effects resulting from the conflicts in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Sudan, Khartoum, and Somalia. These include influx of refugees and asylum seekers, illegal immigrants, and proliferation of small arms and light weapons. The capacity of the national security agencies, i.e. Uganda Police Force, the Internal Security Organization, supported by the Army, the UPDF, has been enhanced in order to combat crimes and guarantee the safety of all Ugandans. You saw how they stopped this young person who blew herself up the other day because she wanted to go into where people are, but it was foiled. It was intercepted before, and she decided to blow herself up because she was discovered. The security situation in Karamoja sub-region has significantly improved, despite pockets of criminality in the form of livestock thefts and some incursions by the Pokot and Turkana from Kenya. Deployments to stop cattle thefts by some of the Karamojong in the neighboring sub-districts, sub-regions of Sebei, Teso, Lango, and Acholi have been maintained. In the eastern DRC, the joint FADC is the Congolese army, UPDF operations against ADF are ongoing with significant achievements. Since November 2024, 223 abductees have been rescued from captivity and some firearms and bombs have been captured, including IEDs, improvised explosive devices. The government continues to modernize and professionalize Uganda's security forces by improving their welfare and strengthening the cooperation between the civilian population and the security forces. the UPDF, Uganda People's Defense Force Construction Brigade, has rehabilitated schools in rural communities, and together with the National Enterprise Corporation, has been involved in the rehabilitation of major infrastructure such as Entebbe International Airport. It is paramount to jealously regard Uganda's political and economic stability. All attempts to destabilize Uganda by internal and external actors have been thwarted and defeated. We welcome mutual and non-parasitic collaboration with everybody. Uganda's priorities and interests are very clear, and therefore our allies must respect and uphold them in all their dealings with us. The patriotic leadership in charge of the country's affairs cannot deviate from its historical mission to defend and transform Uganda and Africa on account of threats by some of our allies who misunderstand our goals and methods of work. For instance, we are soon finalizing the construction of the 1,443 East African crude oil pipeline from Burisa on Lake Albert to Tanga in Tanzania. This East African crude pipeline will take our crude oil to the international market through the sister country of Tanzania. The construction of the standard gauge railway, which I launched last year, is soon starting, and we have signed a memorandum of understanding with Alpha BMP Investment Group of the United Arab Emirates to start the construction of the oil refinery in Hoima. Many other projects in roads, energy, ICT, schools, hospitals, and agriculture have continued to be implemented despite the World Bank and the USA suspending new financing to Uganda. Our economy remains strong and resilient. It was recently ranked 7th by the International Monetary Fund among the fastest growing economies of the whole world. The size of the economy is projected at Uganda shillings $224.9 trillion, equivalent to $60 billion by the end of June 2025. In 1986, the economy was only Uganda shillings 42 billion, or US dollars 3.9 billion. This means that in dollar terms, the size of the economy has expanded nearly 15 times since the NRM government took power in January 1986. The economy grew by 6.7% in the first quarter of this financial year, compared to 5.6% recorded in the same period last year. This is on top of the growth of 6.1% in the financial year 2023-2024. Economic growth is projected at 6.3% this financial year and further projected to grow to 7% in the financial year 25-26. It is projected to grow faster when commercial production of oil and gas starts next year. In purchasing power parity terms, our economy is projected to be US dollars 171.6 billion by the end of this financial year in June 2025. And next financial year, equivalent to about 65.7 billion using the Atlas method. This will be equivalent to US dollars 187 billion in purchasing power parity terms. This growth will translate into higher household incomes from US dollars 1,259 income per capita by the end of this financial year to US dollars 1,330 as income per capita next financial year. In the past 4 years, our growth has been broad-based, inclusive, and pro-poor. The latest National Housing Survey report that was released recently by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics shows that the share of Ugandans living below national poverty line has fallen to 16% from 20% 4 years ago, surpassing the 2025 national target of 18.5%. With the continued implementation of the PDM, we are on track to completely wipe out poverty in the near future. The same UBOS report revealed that income inequality has also declined significantly over the last 4 years. The Gini coefficient, a statistical measure used to determine the extent of income inequality within a population, has reduced 38% from 41% in 2020. In the 12 months to March 2025, export receipts from merchandise trade increased by 26% to US dollars 9.3 billion. The Ugandan shilling is the most stable currency in the whole of Africa. During the past 12 months, it has appreciated by 6.1%. Inflation is under control. It is projected at 3.6% in financial year 2024-2025. And Uganda has experienced Africa's second lowest inflation rate in the past decade. Foreign direct investment inflows are projected at US dollars 3.8 billion, while tourism and remittance receipts from our Ugandans abroad are projected at US dollars 1.5 billion and 1.4 billion respectively. During the next 5 years, it is projected that Uganda's GDP is going to more than double to USD 158 billion in 2030 in exchange rate terms and US dollars 296 billion in purchasing power parity terms. These achievements are not by accident. They are on account of deliberate and focused government interventions. Cumulatively, over the last 10 years, government has injected 8 trillion shillings in strategic wealth creation initiatives, which have boosted economic performance. These initiatives include: number one, capitalization of the Uganda Development Bank, 1.45 trillion shillings, to provide affordable capital to manufacturers and small businesses. 2, parish development model, 3.4 trillion by the end of this financial year for the poor rural families. 3, Emyoga, 553 billion shillings. 4, Youth Livelihood Program, 207 billion. 5, Small Business Recovery Fund, 100 billion. 6, Agriculture Credit Facility, 495 billion. Youth Venture Capital Fund, 12.5 billion. Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, 168 billion. Invite Project, 800 billion. The Grow Project, 824 billion. And the Uganda Development Corporation, shillings 1.2 trillion, among others. Merchandise goods exports grew by 26% to US $9.3 billion in the year ending March 2025. The top exports include gold, 3.7 billion, coffee, 1.8 billion, cocoa, 410 million, industrial products such as cement, Uganda, US dollars 335 million, metal products such as steel, US dollars 230 million, sugar, US dollars 190 million, fish, 177 million. The export value of milk and milk products increased 10 times from US dollars 28 million in 2015 to US dollars 285 million in 2024. The total export earnings of goods and services reached US dollars 11.81 billion by March 2025. The prices of consumer goods and services have remained low, averaging 3.4% in the past 12 months to April 2025. This is good for savers and investors to be able to plan their investments and plan with certainty. The low inflation was due to a stable exchange rate, good crop harvests, and the decreasing global prices of liquid fuels. The prices of diesel, petrol, and kerosene reduced by 4.2%, 2.5%, and 1.7% respectively on average for the year ending April 2025. The increased domestic capacity in sugar production has led to a reduction in the consumer prices of sugar by 10.8% in April from what it was the same month a year ago. Abaganda tugamba akatari kabbe temanyi Luganda. Akatari kabbe oli amagumba osola mu mulyango. Bano Baganda bakika ki bannange? The prices of beef have increased by 10%, in part due to the increased export of beef to the Middle East, which has increased demand. This is good for the cattle keepers. The problem we still have is the disease outbreaks in some parts of the country, as well as cattle thefts. Government has recently vaccinated livestock in most parts of the country, but in some places, there is laxity in implementation of the quarantines. District leaders should always ensure that quarantines, especially against foot and mouth disease, are strictly adhered to. As a result of the strong foundation that the NRM government has built over the years, foreign direct investment was US dollars 3.5 billion for 12 months up to March 2024. This was mainly in mining, transport, manufacturing, finance, etc. The single largest source of FDI was the Netherlands, 55%, followed by France, 20%, Kenya, 6%, Tanzania, 5%, UK, 4%, and others 10%. In 1986, the government collected only shillings 5 billion in revenue because private businesses and manufacturing had collapsed. When the NRM took power, we embarked on the rehabilitation of the economy and adopted the policies of liberalization, and reformation of the public institutions. As a result, the revenue collection capacity has improved. Revenue collection is projected at Uganda shillings 31.9 trillion. This financial year, ending June 2025, equivalent to 14.3% of total economic output of GDP. This is still less than the desired level to finance our development plans. The government plans to collect shillings 37.2 trillion in domestic revenue next financial year, 2025-2026. In order to boost revenue collection, the government will implement the following steps. Number one, enhancing efforts to fight corruption at the URA through regular audits, whistleblowers, and leveraging digital platforms to minimize human interaction. Two, minimizing tax evasion using the electronic fiscal receipt and invoicing solutions, EFRIS, digital tax system, DTS, and intrusive scanners to improve real-time monitoring of taxable transactions, ensure accurate declaration of revenues, and curb under-invoicing. Three, combating smuggling at border points through extended surveillance using advanced technologies like drones and tracking systems with increased patrols in high-risk areas. Four, adopting specific tax duties to address under-declaration of values, particularly in manufacturing and imports of high-value goods. Five, supporting local governments, including municipalities, to increase revenue collection. Six, recruitment and training of more tax officers at Uganda Revenue Authority and other revenue collection institutions. Our economy is now more diversified and more sophisticated. In 1986, the economy depended only on the 3 C's, which are coffee, cotton, and copper, and the 3 T's, which are tobacco, tea, and tourism. According to a study conducted by the Harvard Economic Lab, in the last 10 years, Uganda added 20 new products to its export basket and has an opportunity of harnessing production of 50 new complex products. Some of these new products include ICT equipment, serums and vaccines, medicines, new pneumatic tires, batteries, gas turbines, electronic integrated circuits, transmission apparatus for radio, telephone, television sets, measuring instruments for physical and chemical analysis, and among others. These new products have contributed to the continued diversification of our exports. Manufacturing is the answer to the challenge of unemployment. Uganda has got raw materials and human resource that can support factories specializing in the manufacture of automobiles, electronics, steel, textiles, furniture, food products, pharmaceuticals, aluminium products, etc. Some of the new products which are manufactured here and contributing to our export earnings include an electronics manufacturing plant in Namamvi Industrial Park, producing 120,000 hair dryers and 60,000 refrigeration parts per year. Number two, pharmaceutical companies producing 4 million single HIV pills and 2 million other medicines per year. Number 3, dairy farms, which produce 5.3 billion liters of milk, and processing plants such as Royal Milk Enterprises, Jezzard Farm, Brookside Dairy, Amos Dairies, Lakeside Dairies, H.E.Y.K Dairy, Pearl Dairy, etc., which process about 800 million liters of milk and 365 million tons of cheese per year. Number 4, cut flowers worth US dollars 120 million being exported to Europe and other countries per year. Number 5, 2,000 tons of avocado and 4,000 tons of bananas being exported to countries like South Sudan, Kuwait, Thailand, and South Korea per year. Electronics, pharmaceuticals, and solar energy products worth US dollars million being exported to the regional international markets per year. Therefore, with the roads and electricity we have now, the emphasis on skills development and the entrepreneurial spirits of Ugandans, the country can increase the share of manufacturing goods in total economic output to the levels of South Korea, Thailand, or Malaysia. In Uganda's case, this is currently valued at US dollars 8 billion. It was only US dollars 237 million in 1986. The return on investment in Uganda is high. It averages 14% per year and can be higher in some sectors compared to an average of only 5.2% in Europe in 2022. This is very important for you to understand that when you invest here, you make profits more easily than when you invest in Europe. In Europe, 5.2%, here more than 14%. If you invest in Uganda, you get back your initial investment capital in about 5 to 7 years, and the rest is profit, which our laws allow you to repatriate without restrictions. Government has put in place a strategy to increase the size of the economy to US dollars 500 billion by 2040 or earlier. My people talk of 2040, but me, I want it earlier. This strategy identifies 4 anchor sectors. These are agro-industrialization, tourism development, mineral development, including oil and gas, and science, technology, and innovation, i.e., taking advantage of the knowledge economy by prioritizing investment in research and development. Agriculture production and agro-industrialization. Government has invested in irrigation in order to boost agricultural production. This is because the provision of water for irrigation reduces the likelihood of crop failure on account of water scarcity. Although Uganda's irrigation area has increased from 22,000 hectares to 23,000 hectares, the country, however, has an irrigation potential of 3 million hectares. We have got 3 million hectares which can be irrigated. And here we have only irrigated 23,000 hectares of the 3 million. In order to achieve this goal, government is accelerating the construction of solar-powered irrigation schemes, medium-scale irrigation schemes, earth dams, communal and individual valley tanks, and large-scale irrigation schemes across the country. The construction works for 92 solar-powered irrigation schemes have been completed, adding an irrigation area of 900 acres. These are in the districts of Apache, Buweju, Buyukwe, Bukomansimbi, Burisa, Bushenyi, Butambara, Buvuma, Gomba, Hoima, Isingiro, Kakumiro, etc. The new solar-powered irrigation schemes have benefited 110,000 farmers, and production yield from 112 schemes has increased to 3,600 tons per season. The major crop enterprises in these irrigation schemes include green pepper, onions, Irish potatoes, watermelons, tomatoes, apples, cabbages, pineapples, coffee, eggplants, vanilla, grapes, mangoes, and pumpkins. Construction works are also ongoing for 22 solar-powered irrigation demonstration sites in the districts of Kabarole, Chenjojo, Kole, Gulu, Napak, Abim, etc. In Nakaseke district, the construction works for Chirema, Phase 1, a medium-scale irrigation scheme, have been completed, thus adding a total of 124 hectares and benefiting 50 farmers engaged in coffee growing, passion fruits, maize, and bananas. Magezi g'Abaganda. The construction works for Wadelai irrigation scheme, 1,000 hectares in Pakwach district, stand at 93.5%. The construction works for Namaitsu medium-scale irrigation scheme in Bududa district are at 70%. Kaumu irrigation scheme, this is in rural district, is at 90%, among others. A mega irrigation scheme, Nyimur, covering 3,300 hectares, has been constructed in Lamo district. You know where Lamo is? You people, you don't know where Lamo is. Lamo is far away, far away, far away, on the Sudan border, South Sudan border. Other construction works include H.E.Y.K irrigation scheme in the Bukedea district, covering 1,480 hectares and targeting 1,600 households. Atari irrigation scheme in Kwen Buramburi district, covering 680 hectares, targeting 2,667 households. And Namatara irrigation scheme in Budaka, Mbare, Butareja districts, covering 3,450 hectares, targeting 4,923 households. The current production of milk stands at 5.4 billion liters at the end of 2024, compared to 2.5 billion liters in the financial year 2017-2018. We have also identified and secured foreign markets through government-to-government interventions, e.g. Algeria, Nigeria. These countries are now buying our powdered milk. This has resulted into an increase in the value of milk and milk products, as already pointed out, from $28.7 million in the financial year 2014-2015 to $285 million in the 2024 year. A new processing factory, Ben Foods, has been commissioned and is currently operational with an installed capacity of 10,000 liters of milk per day. The total value of fish catches from all the water bodies has steadily increased since government deployed armed forces to assist in fisheries enforcement. Currently, we are producing 658,000 metric tons of fish annually. The availability of raw material, fish, sustained operations of 12 fish processing factories. You know that debate. The fisheries unit has been able to stop overfishing or reduce it, although they also accused once in a while of being also sinners. But we can audit their work by looking at the 12 factories which are now processing fish. Many of these had closed. I will meet the fisheries people soon. I will meet the traditional fisheries communities. But this is one of the facts. Are the factories operating or not? And had they closed or not? When we meet, we shall discuss this. Because according to this one here, 12 factories are now operating, processing 658,000 metric tons. The performance has also been a result of the government focus on gazetting of fish breeding grounds. Ebyondo Nebiema, where the fish produces young ones. Some people had invaded those breeding grounds. Enforcement of fisheries laws and regulations, provision of quality fingerlings and fish feed, and providing an enabling environment for private sector to invest in aquaculture. The value of fish and fish products exported increased from $148 million to $152 million in the financial year 2023-2024. The volume of coffee produced has increased from 7.8 million 60 kilogram bags in 2022-23 to 8.2 million bags in the financial year 2023-2024. The performance in the coffee subsector is attributed to government strategic interventions, including generation and distribution of improved coffee variety seedlings, supporting increased use of water for irrigation, and promotion of use of fertilizers use among the farmers. The value of coffee exports has steadily increased from $845 million financial year 22-23 to $1.1 billion in the financial year 2023-2024. Government has provided the research institution with funding of $30 billion in the financial year 2025-2026, geared toward the development of improved coffee production, multiplication and disease, pest and climate resilient varieties. The volume of maize increased from 3.4 million metric tons in 2018 to 5 million metric tons in 2024. Subsequently, the value of maize exports increased from $63 million financial year 2018 to $195 million in financial year 2023-24. The performance is attributed to the increased adoption of improved maize varieties by farmers, increased value addition by private sector, and increased vigilance by government in control of pests and diseases. Next financial year, the government will prioritize the following support agro-industrialization. Number one, appropriate agro-processing and value addition technologies. Number two, high-quality agricultural inputs. Number three, construction of key water storage and irrigation infrastructure. Number four, enforcement of standards and market access. Number five, establishing appropriate post-harvest handling and storage facilities and infrastructure. Number five, disease, pest, and vector control. Number seven, supporting vertical and horizontal value addition for production of high-value, multi-input products, such as nutritional foods, baby foods that use several products like milk, eggs, maize, vegetables, fruits, etc. We must add value to all these products which we are producing now. The eggs, if the eggs are too many, where will you put them? The internal market may not be enough, and the regional market may not be enough. So the answer is to produce baby foods, nutritional foods, so that we can export to the international markets. Number eight, extension services. Number nine, investment in fertilizer production. Number 10, certification and regulation of agricultural inputs and provision of appropriate finance for the various components of the agricultural value chain, among others. Government has introduced the large-scale commercial farmers interest-free credit facility of shillings 175 billion. The money is accessed through government-owned commercial banks. These are Post Bank, Housing Finance Bank, and Pride Bank Limited. This enables large-scale farmers to access mechanization in order to boost agricultural-based exports. The parish development model. The parish development model is now in its third year of implementation. By the end of this financial year, in June 2025, shilling 3.3 trillion will have been provided to the parish development model. The government is currently providing shillings 100 million for each parish per year, per annum. During my up-country trips, I have interacted with some of the beneficiaries of the PDM funds who have used them to start enterprises in food crops, farming, goat keeping, piggery, beekeeping, etc. In Ikisoro, some of the PDM beneficiaries earned between 16 to 20 million shillings from onions over a period of 2 years, using the initial seed capital of just 1 million shillings. Tourism receipts were valued at $1.4 billion in calendar year 2024. This is a significant recovery from $562 million in 2020 when we had the corona shutdown. The good performance is attributed to the sustainable peace and security, increased competitiveness of Uganda's tourism industry through marketing and the government investment in strategic tourism infrastructure. To support tourism, the government has provided adequate security to the tourism sites, improved physical infrastructure, and supported the tourist companies with tax relief. Government is strengthening economic and commercial diplomacy through our embassies or missions abroad to promote tourism in addition to mobilizing foreign direct investment and enabling penetration into export markets. Uganda's proactive support for meetings, innovations, conferences and exhibitions, and our participation in global tourism expos resulted in hosting 267,000 tourists in wildlife protected areas. Government has maintained 1,200 kilometers of trail tracks and roads in the national parks. An important aspect in tourism promotion is adherence to the international standards in terms of grading of accommodation facilities, such as hotels and restaurants, hygiene and sanitation facilities, and access to cheap and stable communication facilities and the internet. In this regard, the government is upgrading the internet gateways to reduce the internet costs and increase the speed of internet connections. The priority areas for tourism development next financial year and in the medium term include: number one, branding and marketing of Uganda as a tourism and investment destination. Number two, infrastructure development and construction of sanitation infrastructure in tourism sites. Number three, construction of refreshment centers and highway road signage and sanitary facilities. Number five, improving tourism security. Number five, hospitality standards and training. On the side of minerals, Uganda has got a number of mineral resources in almost all parts of the country. These include oil and gas reserves, beryl, chromite, lead, lithium, silver, zinc, kyanite, feldspar and diatomite, manganese, diamonds, uranium, iron ore, vermiculite, limestone and marble, gold, graphite, aluminium clay rich in rare earth elements, phosphates, and iron ore in Muko, from which you can make high-quality steel and sand. From these resources, Uganda has the opportunity to industrialize quickly with acquisition of technology and specialized skills development, which is tailored to industrialization. Until recently, when we started refining gold, our minerals were being exported in raw form. We were exporting raw materials. Africans who are here, please, from other countries, this is the disease of Africa, exporting raw materials. Matière primaire, français. Very bad material primaire. Yeah. This means we are donating all the benefits, such as jobs and money, to other countries. I don't have time to give, like if you take iron ore, at one time, if you would export a ton of iron ore they would give you $47. At that time, the one who processed the iron ore into a ton of steel would earn $900. You get $47. The cleverer foreigner, cleverer than you, gets $900. And all the jobs are available for his children when your own children have no jobs. Government has stopped, I have banned completely the export of unprocessed minerals. Some of the people wanted to kill me. I say, you kill me, but I will not. In Tororo, where we have got large deposits of limestone, and Kabare, where we have got iron ore, the government has facilitated the use of these minerals for making cement and steel, respectively. In Kabare, we have put in place the infrastructure for mining the iron ore, from which domestic steel manufacturers have started making high-quality steel. There are now 10 gold refineries in the country, producing gold which is refined to 99.9% purity. There are gold mining activities in Busia by a Chinese company called Wagagai, and the government embarked on the registration of artisanal miners in Buhweju, Busia, Mubende, Kasanda, and Karamoja. Registration will be expanded to cover all artisanal mining areas in the country. In Moyo, there are gold reserves and a huge limestone deposit apparently, which is raw material for cement production. Madi, Manzora, we currently have 3 cement manufacturing plants, namely Tororo, Hima, and Simba Cement, and high-quality tin smelting plant in Barara with an annual capacity of 1,600 tons. A number of cement factories are coming up in Karamoja. Government is also facilitating the establishment of a modern mineral laboratory in Entebbe, which is in the final stages of accreditation to international standards. This financial year, the government started the capitalization of the Uganda National Mining Company. This company will take an equity stake up to 15% in all medium-scale and large-scale strategic mining operations in the country. This is to ensure that as we attract foreign direct investment capital, the country benefits directly in addition to monitoring what is happening in the sector. The company will be capitalized to a tune of Uganda shillings 500 billion over a 5-year period. Oil and gas. With regard to oil and gas production, the government is investing in the requisite infrastructure for commercial production. Kabale International Airport is near completion, and 700 kilometers of tarmac roads have been constructed in the Albertine area. The civil works for ECOP, East African Crude Pipeline, are scheduled for completion next financial year, both in Uganda and Tanzania. The Uganda National Oil Company commenced the petroleum bulk trading business in August 2024. The objective is to ensure security of fuel supply, reduction in the petroleum pump prices, and ensure quality of petroleum products on the market. Hence, the government started implementing this initiative. Since the government started implementing this initiative, Uganda has experienced some reduction in fuel pump prices. We rejected the old mistake of a whole country like Uganda buying petroleum products from middlemen in Kenya. Can you imagine? Your people were buying petroleum for Uganda, Republic of Uganda, member of United Nations, from middlemen. Can you imagine? You can't believe what happens in Africa. I didn't believe it. And you know, in these ministries, there are people called commissioners. Have you heard of them? Commissioner of ignorance of what? So when I came to know, I said, this will not happen. Why not buy from refiners? Don't you know where the refineries are? Or the bulk suppliers? You can't believe it. Africa is really a continent of wonders. A whole country buying petroleum from middlemen. I didn't know this. And I was sitting there, President. In the minerals sector, government investment next financial year will prioritize the following. Number one, establishing the quantities of the remaining mineral reserves. Number two, strengthening the mineral tracking system to improve transparency and meet the international rules of origin. Number four, adequate capitalization of the Uganda National Mining Company. Number four, the governance framework and the fiscal rule for mining sector. Number five, expediting finalization of the East African crude pipeline. Number six, prioritization of construction of the oil refinery and refined products pipeline. And number seven, commencing the construction of the Kabarega Industrial Park to attract petrochemical industries, among others. Science, technology, and innovation. I want to commend Ugandan scientists for nurturing our nascent knowledge economy. Our scientists have been active in developing automobiles, vehicles. You show them the vehicles. You show these honorables and all these powerful people. Emotoka zaffe bannange ziruddawa ziteekeko. Temulina motoka zaffe, mulina abakulu bokka be bali abakulu tebamanyi. Bannange mugirabye Kiira. Our visitors, freeze it there. Kabagirabire ddala. Laba bano bagiteekako ne bajjaku. You leave it there. Freeze it there. Now, those buses are electric buses manufactured by your children here. From zero to the whole thing. They are called Kiira. Kiira is our name for the Nile. The Nile, other people call it Nile, but for us we call it Kiira. Even the South Sudanese, they use the same name. That's why His Excellency Salva Kiir. Salva Kiir means Nile. Salva Kiir, the president, means Nile. His name means Nile. So these people are making the buses, the smaller cars, all other vehicles. Thank you. You can. You can now show the big people. Or whatever you. I want to commend Ugandan scientists for nurturing our nascent knowledge economy. Our scientists have been active in developing automobiles, vaccines, electronics, therapeutics, diagnostics, and other healthcare tools. The innovations include, number one, the H.E.Y.K vehicle plant in Jinja, which has an annual capacity of 2,500 vehicles and employment potential of 12,000 direct and indirect workers. There are 39 buses operating on our roads from H.E.Y.K, and 30 buses are under production. The plant has secured a market in West Africa to supply about 3,700 electric buses. Number two, dye biopharma manufacturing facility in Matuga. Can you show it to us, that one there? That one is a clever Ugandan who is heavily supported by the government. But he has also attracted some support from other places. The biopharma manufacturing facility in Matuga has filed more than 100 patents in the United States, including a cancer treatment technology based on the gene therapy, a highly potent gene therapy technology for red blood cells generation by the bone marrow, an mRNA vaccine that treats brain degenerative tissue disease, an anti-malaria vaccine, a vaccine for HIV, a one-month insulin shot, a type 1 diabetes vaccine, a universal foot and mouth disease vaccine, and a biological molecule for penicillin. All these patents are there. You can check them by your people. Magora. I don't know whether is Magora here. If he's here, you could stand up and you see him. Number three, developing the vaccines of the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever and the Rift Valley virus. Number four, accreditation of the Alphasan vaccine manufacturing facility to produce anti-tick vaccines for the second phase of clinical trials. Number five, Professor Wang's clinical trials of his natural therapeutics. He's also establishing an international certified production facility in Soroti Industrial Park. Number six, the PCR kit developed by scientists at Makerere University to conduct more than 2 million tests at 50% of the cost of imported alternatives. This has saved the country $37 million in imports per year. Number seven, Guru University developed highly effective rapid test kits to crop diseases for cassava and sweet potatoes. Number eight, the Engineering Development and Innovation Centers in Rebtete, Chirhura District and Namamvi are enhancing capacity for industrial technology, metallurgy, electrical and electronics, civil engineering, automotive technology, agricultural mechanization, and construction machinery. Number nine, the presidential initiative on banana industrial development plant in Bushenyi. Can you show us that one? Bushenyi Banange. Bushenyi Banange. If you want not to die from heart attacks, you take our bananas. They have got potassium for your heart muscles. The Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, PBID plant in Bushenyi, has significantly increased commercial production capacity to 140 metric tons of fresh matoke. Matoke is what we call bananas in our language, per day. The plant has sale orders from the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Italy. Over the last 17 years, the NRM government has prioritized infrastructure development, especially the roads, the railways, and electricity. We now have a solid foundation to support industrial development. All parts of the country are interconnected using tarmac roads and wood maram roads. This means whatever is produced in the country can easily reach the markets. It also means that the cost and the time of moving goods has reduced significantly, facilitating both investments and trade. The stock of tarmac roads is now 6,199 kilometers, compared to only 1,900 kilometers when the NRM took power in 1986. Of these 1,900 kilometers, only 114 kilometers were in fair condition, while the rest, totaling 1,786 kilometers, were in poor condition. The roads to commence construction to tarmac standard next financial year include, number one, 23.6 kilometers Yumbe Ure Road and Bridge. Are my Yumbes happy? Award 4. 69.3 kilometers Katine Ochero Road. Apoyo. And 2.9 kilometers of town roads in Kaberamaido and Karaki towns. Number 3, 105 kilometers Chenjojo, Chihura, Buizi, Rwamwanja, Kahunge, Mparabwizi. Mwebale muno. 56.3 kilometers Iganga, Bulopa, Kamuri, Jinja. Mwebale ino 127 kilometers Mbulamuti, Kamuri Bukungu. At long last. 10 kilometers Jinja City Roads. 115 kilometers Kitugum Kidepo. Apoyo. 88 kilometers Ishashakatunguru Road. Mwebale Mnonga. 65.3 kilometers Luku Karangara Mlabana Road. Do the buses have their own language? Bogera Ruganda. Kare. Bagenderao. 10.67 kilometers in the 7 town roads in Karangara. 72 kilometers Nabumari, Butareja, Namutumba. 73 kilometers Karenga, Kapedo, Kabong. 69.6 kilometers Kotido Kabong Road. Alakara, Noi. 25 kilometers Buburo, Bududa Sakiro Road, Hakagutako Banange. Abamasaba. 21 kilometers, Mbale and Kokonjeru Road. Banange, 46.6 kilometers. Kawohe, Nyakambu, Buzuwera, Nyakambu, Nsika. Awanyabweru at last. Government is repairing 78.9 kilometers of road from Nebi to Arua. 18, I'm also negotiating for more money to tarmac other roads, namely Kabujogera, Kitagwenda, Kamwenje Road. Abatagwenda banje mutawamatsuko. Muhanga, Rwamchuchu, Kisizi, Rubare Road, with a branch to Nyakshenyi and another one to Kelsoni. Abahorra bakiga tinda basa kubebwa Lyantonde, Lumbugu, Rakai. Abakochi baffe eyo munde eyo Sembabule, Matete, Mbirizi, with a branch to Kibinge, Kyabakuza. Myanzi, Kasanda, Kiboga. Abantu bange bekasanda mu akaluru mukatereze utereza akaluru eyo. Kagate, Kitwe, Mirama Hill. Mama was about to kill me on this one here. Katumponye. Kavingo, Rugaga, Magabi, Rakai. Ruero, Butarangwa, Ngoma, Buyamshenyi, Masindi. Kayunga, Bale, Galilaya. I'm going to get additional money for these roads because we have been talking about them for a long time. This will be in addition to completion of the following roads. 92 kilometer Muyembe na Kapiripirit and 25 kilometer of service roads. 21 kilometer Kira Matuga Road, an improvement of the 5 junctions. 26 kilometers of Tororo Busia Road, and Mayuge and Busia Town Roads. 6.6 kilometers Kawuku Werenga Road. 100 kilometers Apache Lira Poranga. These are already being worked on. They are going to be finished. And 1.6 kilometers to Namagonde Bugiri Fuel Tank Reservoir. The roads for maintenance or reconstruction include Kampala-Jinja Highway, 72 kilometers, Busunju-Kiboga-Hoima, 145 kilometers, Mubende Road, Mitiana-Mbende Road, 86 kilometers, and Mubende-Chenjojo Road, Mubende-Chenjojo Road, 95 kilometers, Mitiana Town Road, 14 kilometers, Abe Mitiana Mtereza Karuru Bandange. Buno busajja buliyeyo tubona kye bukola butabula. Mugenda muleta obusajja sajja buliyeyo. Arui Nebi Road, 33 kilometers. This is in West Nile. Pakwacha Nebi Town Roads, Oruyo Pakwachi Road 62 kilometers, Matugasem to Kapeka 41 kilometers. Iwali akasaji yo nakasiki manake. Akasaji abantu bage mutereze bigambo ebyo. Obusaje bugende bukole birala. Matuga Semto Kapeka, Tororo Mbare Soroti. This is a long one. Soroti Dokoro Lira Kamdin Road 189. These are ongoing already. Karuma Oruyo 43. Masaka Chotera Mutkura Road 89. Nyandovira Maria Road 11 kilometers. Access road, 7 kilometer rehabilitation of 166 million equivalent of national road that have reached their service life. What they call service life is Zikadiye. The strategic bridges to be prioritized. There's a road in PG Elimonde Yetu Kasanje. Akatauna kalala bakita batya Kasanje wa Kisubi wala akatauna eyo munda kalala nakauka eyo sikirabye wano tulina okugiteekako nayo. Naye abantu batereeza obululu bannange kubanga the strategic bridges, so I would have to add that road. I thought we had started on it. The strategic bridges to be prioritized in the next financial year include Seziwa Bridge along Karagi Kayunga Road, Katonga Bridge, Rueda Swamp, and Kalanda Swamp. Electricity. In 1986, the whole country had only one hydropower plant, Narubari, formerly called Owen Falls Dam, built by the British in 1954 and commissioned by our late auntie, Queen Elizabeth. With the maximum capacity of 150 megawatts of hydroelectricity. There are now 4 large hydropower plants at Narubare, Chira, Isimba, and Karuma, with a combined generation capacity of 1,163 megawatts. Other sources such as Chigwabia, Sabo Konge, solar power in Mbende have added another 888 megawatts. This brings the total installed electricity generation capacity to 2,052 megawatts. However, given the growing electricity demand arising from the new manufacturers, this is very inadequate, and the available capacity will run out in about 5 years from now. So when people talk of surplus, there's no surplus. It will very soon be overtaken. In the past, delayed investment in new electricity generation capacity led to power blackouts, you remember, and affected productivity in the industrial and services sector. To stop this from happening again, the government will commence investment in new hydropower plants at Ayago, in Nwoya, District 840 megawatts, Kiba in Oyam District 400 megawatts, and Oryang in Nwoya 382 megawatts. In addition, work is ongoing for the 8,400 megawatts nuclear power plant in Uyende District. All these investments, when completed, will bring Uganda's electricity generation capacity to 12,074 megawatts. But we are aiming at 52,000 megawatts. Human capital. The government continues. Don't mind the long speech. You are the ones who invited me. The government continues to focus on attaining a good standard of health for Ugandans and those living in Uganda. The prevention strategy remains the most powerful tool for fighting diseases. Therefore, I urge all Ugandans to adopt healthy lifestyles by exercising, maintaining personal hygiene, eating nutritious foods, sleeping under a treated mosquito net, refraining from dangerous practices like smoking, sexual promiscuity, etc. While the government is investing in improving the health infrastructure across the country, it is the responsibility of every individual to ensure that they live a clean and safe environment, in a clean and safe environment, and to avoid falling sick. Government has invested in a number of health infrastructure projects. These include infrastructure development for the Uganda Cancer Institute and regional cancer centers, the Uganda Heart Institute, intensive care units, and imaging centers for referral hospitals. Construction of new maternity wards and staff houses in the health center tools that are being upgraded to Health Center 3 is currently ongoing. This has significantly increased the health facilities in all districts across the country. For example, when I visited Yumbe district recently, I found out that Yumbe alone has 26 health center 3s. This means that our people, especially children and expectant mothers, no longer have to travel long distances when they get sick or when they are going to give birth. This also supports immunization, which helps to raise healthy children and supports the detection of dangerous disease outbreaks before they spread. Government has supported the establishment of a pharmaceutical industrial park at Namanve, which is producing surgical gloves and examination gloves, disposable syringes, human drugs like magnesium sulfate, and the paracetamols. Next financial year, the government will support the construction of specialized centers of excellence for cancer and cardiovascular treatment, among others. Education. The government has introduced reforms in the education sector which are aimed at reorienting the curriculum towards a competency-based approach. This involves equipping learners with practical skills and competencies that are required in the private sector. This will help to reduce unemployment among the school graduates. Government continues to implement the Universal Primary Education Program, reaching 8.8 million learners across 12,433 government-aided primary schools at a sum of Uganda shillings 184 billion. The government, through the School Facilitation Grant, constructed 413 new classrooms for primary schools and renovated 181 classrooms. Government procured and distributed 334 sets of mean laboratory equipment to 334 primary government schools to enhance practical science learning and foster early scientific curiosity among young learners. A total of 593 teachers were recruited to facilitate operationalization of the new grant-aided secondary schools in sub-counties. The government has successfully completed the construction of an additional 50 seed secondary schools under the Uganda Intergovernmental Physical Transfers Program, bringing the cumulative total to 161 seed schools out of the 259 planned. The majority of the remaining schools are progressing well and are on the schedule for completion by June 2025. The total number of government-aided primary schools in the country is now 12,550. People normally talk of parishes which don't have government primary schools. But how many parishes are there in Uganda? It is because some of the parishes have got more than one primary school. Otherwise, 12,000 would have covered every parish. Because remember, the villages are 72,000. And there are normally about 5 or 10 villages in a parish. So the primary schools supported by the government are now quite many. But some of the parishes may have more than one. The total number of government-aided secondary schools is 1,416. The technical and vocational schools are 189. And the government degree awarding universities are 12. That is the infrastructure of education in the country now. The proper management of our water and environmental resource is a major contributing factor to public health, agricultural productivity, and climate change adaptation. The National Population and Housing Census Report of 2024 showed that at least 8 in 10 households now have access to improved water sources, i.e. piped water, protected springs, etc. In 1986, only 10%, that is 1 out of 10 households, had access to a clean and safe water source. Today, 81.1% of the households in Uganda are in the radius of 1 kilometer from a safe water source. This is on account of the government's prioritization of the construction of piped water systems in both rural and urban areas. Government has constructed a number of solar-powered piped water systems in the districts of Agago, Aleptong, Kayunga, Mityana, Paderi, etc. There are ongoing construction works in other districts like Buweju for Bisia water supply system, Kasese for Nyamugasani gravity flow scheme, Ora water supply system to serve the districts of Terego, Madio-Okolo, and Nebi, among others. Additionally, through the district water and sanitation conditional grant, the local governments have been able to boost access to improved water sources across the country. The local governments have constructed a total of 2,564 taps, serving 452,000 persons, drilled 709 deep boreholes, serving 212,000 persons, and 128 protected springs, serving 43,000 persons. They have also constructed 109 rainwater harvest tanks, servicing 652 persons, and 79 production wells. A total of 1,333 boreholes and 28 piped water systems have been rehabilitated across the country, thus restoring service to 417,000 persons. Regional integration. The political balkanization of Africa created small states, many of which have got smaller populations. Uganda, with 46 million people, is one of the bigger states. The solution of this problem is regional integration. The whole of Africa has got a very high population of 1.4 billion people, 1.5 billion. But this population is broken up in small units. Smaller populations mean smaller markets. The problem is compounded by a low purchasing power because of low incomes. So you have got smaller populations with low incomes. How will they support business? There are also problems in the regional market, such as the lack of roads and lack of communication to enable us to fully exploit the regional market. That is why, for instance, Uganda has undertaken the construction of the Mpondwe to Ben Highway to ease connectivity between Congo and Uganda. If we mobilize the whole of Africa to remove all trade barriers, we shall no longer worry about being shut out of markets in Europe or the USA. During the budget, I will speak more about this issue of integration. I think now, let me finish so that people can survive and go home. Mass ID registration. Government through NIRA has started the mass registration exercise of all Ugandans. This important exercise involves replacing the national identity cards that have expired and fresh registration. The IDs will be used to identify voters in the forthcoming elections to prevent fraud. Therefore, I urge all to embrace the registration exercise. Conclusion. As I conclude, so you see patience pays, you have really survived. As I conclude, I wish to reiterate that the NRM is aiming at making Uganda a $500 billion economy in the near future. We have identified 4 key areas to drive this rapid growth. First is agro-industrialization. We must add value to the abundant agricultural raw materials that we, the wealth creators, are producing: coffee, dairy products, beef, fish, fruits and vegetables, cocoa, cereals, poultry, piggery, cotton, tea, etc. These value chains have a combined untapped value potential of $20 billion. Second is tourism and travel. We have a strategy to increase tourism inflows 5-fold by doubling the average spend and average stay time per tourist. Our tourism value chain has a $50 billion potential. Third is mineral beneficiation and manufacturing, including oil and gas. We are finalizing quantification of our mineral deposits. We must add value to our minerals deposits. We must add value to gold, iron ore, phosphates, limestone, tin, copper and cobalt, lithium, uranium, etc. The confirmed value addition potential for our minerals is $25 billion. We have also finalized the plans and signed the first contract to build the East Africa's largest petrochemical industry around our oil and gas reserves. The fourth area is science, technology and innovation, including ICT and digital transformation. What I have said in this long speech is that Uganda is now unstoppable in terms of economic growth and socio-economic transformation. Our security apparatus is also robust. All this is in spite of the mistakes of the careerists that infiltrated the civilian echelons of the NRM and even within the UPDF to some extent. These are normally after personal enrichment and power. They hardly bother with salvation policies of Uganda or Africa. During the budget speech, I will talk about 2 issues: corruption and the East African Federation. In spite of these mistakes and the external meddling, as you have seen, Uganda is unstoppable. Why? It is on account of our correct position on philosophy, ideology, and strategy, and the fear of God. Therefore, the malignment notwithstanding, Uganda is moving forward. It is now irreversibly a middle-income country with a GDP per capita of $1,263, as already pointed out. It is number 7 among the fastest growing countries in the whole world. The source is the IMF. IMF, when you hear a cow talking, then what are you asking? IMF has said Uganda is number 7 in the whole world. IMF, Sim 7 at. And this is before oil. With oil, we shall be the first in the whole world. It is growing at 6.3% per annum. It is projected to be 7% next year, 2025, 2026, and will grow in double digits after oil. Akahanjururwasha, tukahangurwa munobi. This is the other language. You know the other language. Akahanjururwasha, tukahangurwa munobi. What God has created cannot be destroyed by haters. In recent times, one of my happiest days was the 6th of May, 2025, when we held the NRM village assemblies over. I started hearing stories that some of our leaders were taking sides in the election of the structures above the village. We are studying this information, and I will give my guidance in the coming weeks. The NRM members should stay calm. Whatever mistakes that happened here in Uganda. They did not happen in Iceland, they did not happen far away, they are here. We shall unearth them. They did not happen in any other country where we have no authority. Get the facts and give them to the NRM administrative secretaries at the district or the NRM Secretariat in Kampala, in writing, with the illustrations of the information. The first economic growth I talked about in the economy is on account of 4 factors. These are the correct philosophical, ideological, and strategic position of the NRM, as already pointed out. Number 1. Number 2, the NRA, UPDF, that liberated the country and has ensured peace ever since. Number 3, the wealth creators in the 4 sectors of agriculture, manufacturing, services, and ICT. And number 4, the responsible political actors in the NRM and other groups that have contributed to harmony. These are the 4 that have enabled us to come up. Number 1, our correct stand on philosophy, ideology, strategy. I don't have time to elaborate that, but we have talked about it before. Number 2, the armed forces, UPDF, the NRA, for liberating the country and maintaining peace. Number 3, the wealth creators. The wealth creators, the farmers, the manufacturers, the owners of the services, the ICT. This is why we are strong. We are strong because of the wealth they create. And number 5, the political actors who are positive and support this. Therefore, the careerists who only think of themselves should check themselves. They should not spoil the efforts of the patriots. Here I do not have to talk about the negative opposition elements that work for foreign interests and for the parasitic local interests. Those have failed to block our progress. It is the internal mistakes that must be corrected. Finally, I want to reaffirm the commitment of the NRM government to ensuring that Uganda remains stable and transforms into a modern, prosperous country. I wish all Ugandans a peaceful election season. In the coming session of Parliament, the government will present to you for consideration the following bills. They are here. Let me see. Can't be me. Kaguta paid my school fees. The bills. Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, the Building Substances Bill, 2022. Information and Communications Bill, 2023. The Magistrates Court Bill, 2025. The Workers' Compensation Bill, 2024. Amendment Bill for the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions, 201. Amendment of the Education Act, 208. The Curriculum Assessment and Admissions Bill, 226. Uganda Intelligence Services Policy Framework, 2024. Principles for Drafting the Unclaimed Financial Assets Bill, 2025. Annual Macroeconomic and Fiscal Performance Report, 2024-25. Annual Budget Performance Report, 2024-2025. The National Budget Framework Paper of 2026-2027 to 2030-31. Public Procurement and Disposal Bill, 2025. Principles for the amendment of the Motor Vehicle Insurance, Third-Party Risks Act, 1989. Development of the National Agricultural Financing Policy. Same annual budget performance report. Half-year macroeconomic and fiscal performance report. Ministerial policy statements for financial year 2026-2027, vote 008, vote 130, and other statutory votes under Minister of Economy. Development of the National Insurance Policy, 2025. Budget Speech, 2026-2027. Principles for the amendment of the Tier 4 microfinance institutions and money. Principles for the amendment of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Now, I want to congratulate Parliament and the Speaker for the bills which you passed, which you handled. As I said in my speech in Ruero, some of these bills helped the stability of the country, like the UPDF bill. That one was really one of the speakers. I was watching, sometimes I watch a wonderful UBC. When they are not playing football, they also give some news. Because when they have football, they forget about us. Now, I saw one of the young people, the young man is a legislator, was saying that in a company, you have got internal procedures where you can exercise administrative discipline. But if it is a crime, it must go to court. Of course, it is correct. But if UPDF is not a business company, to find a member of parliament thinking that UPDF is a business company is really a disaster. So I want to congratulate Parliament. I want to congratulate the Speaker for saving us that big problem. Because there's no way UPDF soldiers can go to the magistrate courts once they have made mistakes in the barracks initially. It's not possible. I don't think it happens in other armies. So we need some capacity building for members of parliament. To know what happens in the world. You cannot say UPDF is like a company. It's not a company. It is a very powerful pillar of the state. And it must be handled in a special way. So I congratulate the Speaker and the front bench, the ministers, and the NRM caucus, Banang NRM caucus Eveo, and other allied friends who are friendly. I want to thank all of them. May the Almighty God, I therefore have the pleasure to declare the 5th session of the 11th Parliament open. I salute all of you. May God bless you. Signed, H.E.Y.K Museveni, President of Uganda. Katonda Waveri.
The government policy in your address to the nation and for fulfilling your constitutional obligation under Article 101(1) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Your Excellency and honorable members, kindly allow me to take this opportunity to recognize the presence of the former speakers and presiding officers of the Parliament of Uganda. We have the Right Honorable Francis Butagira, 1980 to 1985. We have His Excellency H.E.Y.K Museveni, the Chairman of the National Resistance Council, 1989 and 1996. Right Honorable Edward Kiwanuka Sekandi, 2001 to 2011. We have the Right Honorable Alhaji Moses Chigongo, the Vice Chairperson of the National Resistance Council, 1986 to 1996. We appreciate them for the contribution to strengthening the foundation on which legislature stands today. May the good Lord bless all of you, because we are where we are because of you. And we'll also leave it for the next people who will come in. We take cognizance of the government's legislative agenda for the 5th session, and we pledge our utmost commitment to the 11th Parliament to prioritize the government business and expeditiously and exhaustively consider all the government business before any other business. Honorable members, pursuant to Rule 26(1) of the Rules of Procedure, we will allot time at a later date for an exhaustive debate on the President's address on the state of nation. Honorable members, His Excellency the President will be back on Thursday, 12th June 2025 to deliver the budget speech. I want to invite all of you kindly to be here to receive the budget, and want to thank all the ambassadors who are here. We are very grateful that you're here and that you honored our invitation. I there want to ask members, please be here to receive the budget. Remember, one of your roles is appropriation. You did appropriate, and now you're here to receive, you'll be here to receive the budget. I want to once again thank Your Excellency the President and all the dignitaries who have made it here. And thank you in a special way. Go to Mama Janet Kataha Museveni for accompanying President for this State of Nation address. May the good Lord bless all of you. And as we wish you success in your election during this elective season.
Adjournment.
The House is adjourned to Thursday, 12th, 2025 at 2 p.m.
The anthems.
Welcome back from the State of the Nation's address. The President has completed his speech as given in Article 101 of the Constitution, and he has spoken and given us details of what his prospects are. Scorecard has been given, areas that he has seen that have fallen short, especially an area like corruption that he has spoken about, but also he has commended the House for passing numerous bills that have gone through. Specifically, he was appreciative of the UPDF Amendment Act there and gave a few credits there, especially talking about the soldier when they are in there. He wouldn't want them to fall short in that area. He wanted something that could hold them accountable. He also mentioned a number of bills that he expects that will be brought to the floor of Parliament in this fifth session to be able to discuss them before the winding up of the 11th Parliament, which will be sometime towards the end of this year, because we'll be getting into the elections there. But he also goes on to project what 4 areas will look like if Uganda is to jump into an area where it improves its economy. He talks about agro-industrialization, and he says its projection is about 20 billion dollars there, and he says this will revolutionize the economy of Uganda. He talks about tourism and travel and says this is a low-hanging fruit that can turn 5-fold and is about $50 billion. He looks at that. He also talks about minerals and says this is also a game changer in the area of qualification, which is happening now, and hopes that it will be completed. He says no mineral shall leave this country without value addition. He talks about gold, he talks about numerous minerals, and says this is an industry that is 25 billion at that. He talks about petroleum and chemical industry. And finally, he talks about science, technology, and ICT. These are areas that he says are game changers for the economy of Uganda. And these are the strategic areas that he has mentioned that could make the difference in there. But also the president spoke about a few issues, a few things that happen, especially expenditure rationalization, fight against corruption. He says that's one of the biggest things there. But he also talks about 33% of the people that are within the economy that are in subsistence farming, and he talks about they need to join the money economy. He talks about the traditional and the untraditional security areas that have been resolved, especially with the nation. He says we are peaceful as a nation. He talks about increase of in collections. He says collection needs to happen, and that was an emphasis that he went on to emphasize the training of the people that will come into the collection area. He says ICT will be involved in the collection if you go on there. He says the improvement of security in the Karamoja region has also improved there, but he talks about areas of operation in DRC there. He also credited for improving the welfare of the security, rehabilitation of schools, neutral and he says neutral and non-parasitic relationships are very important. Moving, I see Honorable Kajwenje is just next to me here. Honorable, please join me. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening to you. Very well, thank you.
It is good to see you looking as smart as usual.
My pleasure. But also glory to the NRM and to the people of Nyabushozi.
So the people of Nyabushozi, this speech you have had, how do you think they have taken it?
I think in good faith. I think the president was lively, was emphatic. What it is based on and what makes it the correct ideology, the philosophy, and the correct way the NRM has prescribed it. So we are really very, very happy.
And I like the projections. He talked about agro-industry, minerals, and said he has banned minerals being there. How is the implementation of these things supposed to trickle down through ministries, you legislators, to ensure that the people begin to feel the impact of this economy in their pockets?
I think, first of all, it's now clear. How do people feel the growth of the economy in their pockets? One, when services become visible and better. when hospitals are built, when medicine is in the hospitals, when teachers, scientists, no problem.
Thank you. Honorable Kashwenje, thank you very much. And I am holding on to the Prime Minister here, and she's with me, Robina Nabanza, the one and only Prime Minister of the country. Good evening, Honorable. It's good to have you.
Good evening, brother.
How are you?
I'm fine.
How did you take the speech of the President? How was it to you? How was the outlook?
The President has given us a very well-researched address of the nation. Yes. Well-researched. He has touched all areas of our economy. And so, I want to say thank you so much, Mr. President. The bills. You have already seen me spearhead these bills. The bills that we presented in cabinet and the bills he has talked about, the President is the chair of cabinet. So he's bringing up certain bills which we think are necessary for the country to grow. He has talked about the accelerated development, the agro-industrialization. Yes. You are aware that we have so many agricultural products, and we are targeting both the national, the regional, and the international markets. So he talked about value addition on our agricultural products. So I want to encourage our people, especially our PDM farmers and other farmers, both the large-scale and small-scale farmers, to increase in production because we now have the market. What we need is to add value to our products. We have a very big market in UAE and these other Arab countries. Now our milk goes to Algeria. And secondly, he talked about the railway. You would appreciate that we have been struggling to have the railway in place. Now that it is almost there, we are going to start working on the railway. We shall continue to work on our roads as usual. He talked about peace and security. The lowest common multiple of development is peace and security of any nation. We have the umbilical cord of any economy. He talked about electricity. Yes. We now have more than 2,000 megawatts. He wants us, we project to have 52,000 megawatts in 2040. And that will attract investment because industries cannot do without electricity. Then he talked about roads. He talked about security, roads. He also talked about many other things.
Very interesting. And those 4 areas you have projected, how do you start to strategize to implement them? I know agriculture is an easy win for you, but there is tourism, there is science, there is minerals. He has put a ban on minerals.
No, he did that long ago. He did that long ago, and we stopped the exportation of raw materials, of our minerals. Let me give you another example. We have been exporting vanilla. He gave me a directive to stop and ban the exportation of raw timber. That's the far we have gone, and I believe you are aware. Yes. So the exportation of raw materials is a no-go zone area in our country. Why? We want them to add value to our products, to those minerals, so that we can, one, create jobs for our people. Oh, yes.
Lastly, Right Honorable Prime Minister, thank you for resolving Kakumiro. I saw it, and you did a fantastic job to make it meticulous. But when you look at the elections and the democracy that the President has talked about, we seem like the NRM is doing an amazing job at the grassroots. Do we seem to see the same thing come the primaries, the elections? How do you see the outlook as the leader of government business there?
For what I see in my district, for example, you saw me coming when I was seeing our people were pulling ropes. And I saw it was going to divide the support of our party. I informed Museveni about this, and he's aware. So we are looking at how to unite our people, and of course, how to get the best out of the best in terms of leaders. And so we always think that we can continue to mobilize and sensitize. As the president said, at a later time he said he's going to invite us, and once he invites us, he will guide. And we see how to go through this electoral period without any problems.
Your vote of confidence to the Ugandans that are watching you, you always have a piece of advice to give. Right Honorable Prime Minister, what is your advice to Ugandans on this day of the State of the Nation's address?
To focus on development, to be peaceful right from their families, yes, their homesteads, to have an income in their homesteads, yes, to have an enterprise where you can get something for your family. Okay. That's all.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister. We have heard from the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja. They are giving us especially the 4 areas that are in foresight that the President has mentioned. I am joined by the Honorable Anite. I'm very well. Good evening, and how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
How was the outlook of the State of the Nations in your view, especially in the docket that you hold?
Exciting, because the President mentions the fact that actually manufacturing is the answer to the unemployment in this country. And I want to tell you that his point is spot on, given the fact that manufacturing alone has created 1.2 million jobs for Ugandans. And so if we continue with that path of manufacturing, we will be able to absorb the unemployed population of Uganda. And I also want to say that the public service jobs can only create 490,000 jobs. And yet every year, academic year, we get over 700,000 graduates from the universities. So it is important that we focus on manufacturing. And what is important for me, and exciting news for me to say to Ugandans and also the foreign direct investors, is that the President has mentioned that Uganda's economy, electricity and sufficient electricity, and connected within the required time in the factories and at the right cost, which is 5 cents, US cents. We also have to ensure that we cut off corruption and bureaucracy among in the sector of manufacturing and investment and privatization. If we do that, if we tackle bureaucracy and we tackle corruption and make sure that it is corruption-free and systems are working and licenses are issued within 48 hours, I can assure you nothing will stop the growth of Uganda's economy.
Honorable, all the best, even as you start on this new managing orders that the President has given you. So you have heard from the Honorable Minister Anite there, talking about especially privatization, how it will be the anchor of things like mineral, agro-industry, but also science and technology, as he has talked about it. But from us here, UBC, as we have given you the State of the Nation's address, till we come back to give you exactly when we come back to talk about the budget when the President comes back next week on Thursday. From us to you, have a fabulous evening.